And welcome to the Drive-In Double Feature Podcast. I'm Nathan.
I'm Ryan.
And this is the podcast where we talk about 2 movies a week every Tuesday and Thursday. And Ryan. I was talking to this guy named Ryan the other day, and he was telling me all about how he went to the bathroom and he was just sitting in the stall and he was waiting to take a giant crap. Okay. And the guy next to him in the other stall, he was listening to something on his iPod, and his mic, I guess, accidentally came unplugged, and Ryan overheard that he was listening to the Drive and Double Feature podcast Patreon. So he knocks on the stall and he's like, "Hey, that's such a great deal. That's awesome that you're listening to that." And then the guy reciprocates, like, "Yeah, I love listening to this while I'm on the John. I get they do flick fights over there, and it's fun." As Nathan likes to say, it's fun. And then, and Ryan finished up his dump and he left. It was pretty good. So that's
I
my
wonder who that guy
story.
was.
I don't know who either of those guys were, but it sounds like a good time. But
I was in the stall next to him, and
you were the third Ryan. You
yeah,
were and you
and
overheard it.
the guy, both of them are like, I wonder if Ryan and Nathan know how much we like them so much, and I just said, I think they know.
Then
That's
they
all I
said, "Who
said.
the hell said that?"
Yeah.
Yeah. But getting into this week's episode, this Tuesday, let's talk about the Angry Video Game Nerd, the movie, or AVGN, the movie, from 2014, directed by James Rolfe and Kevin Finn. I don't think Kevin Finn needs an introduction, of course. James Rolfe,
No.
maybe, yeah. No, but James Rolfe is, we joke about him all the time on here. If you hear us reference like weird things or Angry Video Game Nerd, it's this guy. Um, he is a prolific filmmaker, has made over 500 films, or so he says. His biggest thing to the internet is the Angry Video Game Nerd over on YouTube. Ryan and I make jokes about it all the time, so I just thought it was perfect timing to end the year with an episode covering this movie. Ryan, I don't know, you used to watch a lot of Angry Video Game Nerd back in the day, right?
Used to. I still do.
Yeah, like not like you're forced at gunpoint or anything.
Right. No,
Hmm.
no, I remember discovering him and probably like I think like I was like in high school or whatever, and it was just like a guy reviewing like an old video game I played. I can't remember even which one it was, but I was just
Hmm.
like him talking about how bad it was. And I remember playing that game
Hmm.
and I was like, he's right. I remember that game sucking. And it's like and I became a really big fan. I went back and watched like his whole catalog, but it's just crazy to think it's like that was like over 15 years ago when I discovered him, and
Hmm.
he was still doing he's still doing it now. Maybe not as high of a quality as I would like, but
Hmm.
um it's still around. But I was a pretty big fan at one point. I loved watching all of his. I was so excited. Like anytime I saw he
Hmm.
uploaded a new video.
Yeah, it was like a TV show. No, I agree. I remember the first video I watched was the Bible Games episode. And I just remember thinking it was just so funny. And it was like it became like an event when he uploaded. At a certain point, I kind of fell out. I want to say it was around this time when the movie came out, because it took me a while to see this movie. I've seen it 2 other times, and I know Ryan, you've actually never watched this movie before. Um,
Never.
Never. But yeah, we are here to talk about it today. It's important to have this context because James Rolfe does play the character of the nerd in this movie, and it has Cooper, who is a returning character of the reviews.
Oh yes.
Yeah. No, actually, Cooper, who is his like sidekick co-star, has nothing to do with the internet videos. He's brand new, played by Jeremy Suarez, the the son from the Bernie Mac show, and this is what he
And
does nowadays.
and he was the voice of Coda from Brother Bear.
In both Brother Bears, they got him for
Yeah.
the sequel. Can you believe that?
Yeah, I couldn't believe that.
Yeah. Did they? Who's the main guy in Brother Bear?
Joaquin Phoenix.
Okay, that's right. He is not in Brother Bear 2, is he?
I don't think so.
I looked at it's Patrick Dempsey. What a replacement. Um, but anyway, so it's about these two nerds that hang out together at first. So it's kind of like the nerd going through his daily life. He works at a game
Well, hey,
store. Oh, yeah.
before before we get into the plot, I just wanted to, do you remember them like talking about like the making of this movie, like the big
Oh,
lead
that
up
is
to it?
smart. Yes. I mean, it was a huge deal because it was a huge Kickstarter and everything.
Well, because I remember like the whole point of this movie was like, James Rolfe wanted to do a movie, and he was basically just like, I've got a script
Hmm.
and I've been wanting, because he's always made, I mean, even besides the angry video game nerd, he's always been a filmmaker.
Yeah,
And
that's like a big thing about him is it seemed like he was always more into the film side of things over the video games because he does a lot of film like videos on movies, horror movies, stuff
yeah,
like that.
yeah, so like I remember like him talking about like, I wanted to make this movie and everything, and they did, I think it was Indiegogo that they did, but
Hmm. Something like
it
that.
was, something like they were doing a big drive, and basically what they were wanting, they was like, they just wanted like a little bit of money, and then they were going to like present it to, I guess, investors or whatever. Because I remember it was like they were only asking for like $75,000 or something like really small for a
Hmm.
movie. And what they got was they ended up getting like, I think like 400,000 or 300,000
Yeah.
or something like that.
So I got it here, $325,000.
Right. And I remember when he did that, like, he was really thankful because he said something like, he's like, oh my God, like now we can do this as like a fully percent like independent project. Like it's fully funded
Hmm.
by the fans. Like we wouldn't have to seek any outside investments or anything.
Hmm.
And so basically, like the lead up to me trying to say is that, this was like his movie. Like there was no, like he didn't have to like make any concessions or anything like that, like to any investors or anything.
That's that's very true, actually. It is a very independent project. It is his and Kevin Finn, I should say, who is kind of his buddy. I know he's appeared in AVGN videos, and they've worked together before. So it's kind of their creation, their making, their script, and everything. I guess that's a good way to put it. Yeah, that's interesting. I wonder what this would have been like if they actually got somebody to invest in this movie, if they could.
I don't know, but
A
it might have helped.
A24.
But um the other thing too I remember was just like, so like this whole movie is shot in California, I think, or like most
I
of it.
forgot about that fact.
And so like James Rolfe, I believe, lives in Philadelphia, or he did at
Yes.
one point. So basically he was just like, oh well, I have to go to California to make this movie because that's where every movie is
Hmm.
made, in California. Like if you want to make a movie, you got to go to California, even though like you
Movies are
can make a
shot
movie,
anywhere.
anywhere pretty much. But and like that's like the whole thing behind this movie is that they went out to California. This movie took like years to make. I
Yes, yeah.
remember it's like took like 3 years, I think, like from like the point of like screen production or whatever, or it might have been like 2010 or something like that. It was something like crazy, like when they started. And
Hmm.
he went out and basically lived in California for like an extended period of time,
Hmm.
like while he was making the movie. And after all that, I remember it was like, like he quickly found out like how much everything costs, and like
Yeah,
burnt
because
through all the money.
yeah, because it's not like I guess, which is interesting because he went to film school, but when you get to film school, you start to understand that there's more to it than just getting a camera and filming whenever you have a big budgeted or a project with a bigger budget, I should say. um right, because he goes to California and all the shooting locations you have to pay money, you have to pay for permits to film in all these places, and you have to find places to film, and you have to pay for your crew and everything. And I guess what it seems like is he quickly learned that he didn't like that type of filmmaking, right? Like that wasn't what he wanted. He wanted to do a low, no budget, not pay for anything type of movie.
Well, I mean, if you go back and look at some of his earlier movies, like before he did AVGN, or even side projects he did during that time, he never ever was like, I'm going to go make like a legitimate movie with actors and everything. It was always like, here's me in my parents' garage, or like, here's
Mm-hmm.
me like outdoors, or it was very much like you'd make like a home movie or something, like stuff like I would do with like my friends when we
Yeah.
were younger. Like we would get like a camera and be like, oh, we're making a movie type
Mm-hmm.
of thing. But it's like when you go out there and you use like real filming locations, real actors, you got to go by union times. And he wanted to do stuff like, I want to film in Bronson's cave. It's like just because he could, just so he could say that he did or
Mm-hmm.
whatever.
That sounds very
So,
much like him.
um, but anyway, just to go to say that, like, I remember hearing him talk about this movie. He doesn't seem like he speaks like real fondly of like the process. Like it just sounds like it was like a really miserable
Yeah,
experience.
I wish I could, because we both have the biography, his biography, and I wish I would have finished it. But from what I know of like the notes and everything that I've heard, is that he broke down while making that movie. He cried at one point. Like it was rough. It was a really hard time for him. And a lot of people I know talk about how this movie kind of broke him and kind of stopped him from wanting to be a filmmaker, at least in terms of like putting out new content. And now he puts out an Angry Video Game Nerd and episode, and for a long time it was through a different company. So this movie had ramifications past its release.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, I just wanted to add
Yes,
that context into there.
that's important context. I'm happy that you put that in there. And I guess that's what makes this even more interesting, especially because this movie is god awful. This is a horrible movie. I don't think it has many redeeming factors whatsoever. I hate saying that for something so low budget, but it's just I can't believe this got made. There's movies that cost this much and they're way better.
I I mean, like, I knew it was bad.
Yeah.
I knew the movie wasn't going to be good, but
Hmm.
I was kind of thinking it's like, okay, it's probably going to be like a lot of really lame jokes and everything. But no, this movie is like really bad.
Yeah, it's
Like,
just a bad movie.
like I was watching it and just like, first off, this movie is almost 2 hours long, and
Yeah,
that's
what
like,
is that?
I'm like, because I was watching it and I'm like, and it's like the movie, like they try to like ramp it up and make it a bigger and bigger deal,
Hmm.
but like by making like adding way more stakes to this movie just because they could. And
Hmm.
I'm like, why? Like, why is this
Yeah.
movie 2 hours long?
Oh man, and it makes this movie fall apart because like just from the beginning I would be like, "Oh, this is a bad movie," but it's kind of like a bad reviewer movie. We've seen these before. But it's those added stakes where it ramps up into becoming a monster movie in the end that it just starts being just like some of the worst stuff you could ever see. It's some of the most boring stuff. It's after a certain point you get tired of it, and that's before the hour mark, at least for me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, right away, the jokes in this movie are not funny at all.
What?
It, it's, I and some of them are like really bad, like where I'm like embarrassed watching some of these.
Yeah, no, I've felt that. I felt embarrassment while watching this. Yeah, I think I maybe this time I maybe laughed twice, and I remember one of them, and the other it's not even like a real laugh. It's more like a okay. But there is some horrible stuff. One of the things about this movie is that James Rolfe, or I should say the nerd, keeps telling Cooper nerds before birds. And that becomes like the motto for a while. We forget about it, and it comes back at the end. And but Cooper seems to really want women. And the one the one joke I keep remembering, it keeps playing in my head, and it has ever since I've seen it, is the one where the nerd signs a woman's breasts, and Cooper does it for him, which is already like that feels wrong. That doesn't feel like a
Yeah.
joke from one of his videos. That's the thing. It doesn't feel right. how
Well, that's the
sexual
thing.
this movie is.
Yes, and I'm like, because this movie, like, I, I, he would like. I remember he would comment like sometimes like about
Mhm.
how good looking some women were in like some other game, like in some other reviews that he did, but he was never
Mhm.
just like hubba hubba hubba, like that type of
Yeah.
thing. It was always like real, like, damn, like she's like hot or whatever,
Yeah, just
but it
like a
was never.
dumb comment like that.
Yeah, but it's like Cooper is like a full on sex pest in this movie, where it's just like it, like he, like you said, he's like, oh, that's my department, signing women's breasts. I sign everything for him, and
Mhm.
or then he's like, and then they'll get to, like immediately they'll get to like their table, and he's just like, oh, like I just want to be like getting all, and he just starts like full on dry humping the table, and it's like,
He's like, oh yeah, I want to do it. He's like says something about her booty and just
yeah,
straight just starts dry humping the table. And like the nerd looks embarrassed. I'm embarrassed. I
I was
couldn't
so
imagine doing
embarrassed.
this in front of a camera. The
Like
kid,
I never had like such a visceral reaction to a movie where we're watching. I was like, I just like, I want to shut this. I really want to shut this off.
you sent me a text during it. And I knew it's what you're watching because you just said, "What the fuck is this?" It's
Yeah.
like, oh man, but I had already watched it, so you had to watch it too. Um,
Well, you've said you've seen this 3 times, so this is your
yeah,
third time
it's my
watching it,
third
correct?
time.
So like I know you watched it because you watched it for another podcast, but what was the first time?
I had a friend who liked the Angry Video Game Nerd, and we put it on. This is before I became like kind of disillusioned with it and everything. It was maybe like a few years later, and it was
So
like on
back then you were
Prime.
like, ha ha, ha ha,
No,
so
I
funny.
didn't like it then either. I remember being miserable during that. So at least at least I was in on that. I remember like we were both just like that was horrible. And like the podcast didn't like it. And of course I didn't like it here. But I don't know. It's so funny talking about like the worst of the worst. It's almost so bad that I have to see it again. You get that? Like it's like I have to understand this movie.
I just couldn't imagine watching this movie 3 times. Like for like those two
Oh,
hours like were excruciating.
it was
Eh,
pretty bad. It was pretty
eh,
bad.
it's like there's just so many things that's like I understand like they're trying to go for like a parody or like a real zany comedy or whatever, but it's
Mhm.
like they make everybody in this movie like a really stupid, insane character.
Oh
And
yeah,
it's like nobody has like a rational thought in this movie. It's like the nerd is like almost like the most normal character in this movie.
which is crazy. Yeah, because okay, so I guess it's to say his driving force is that his audience, because the way they play it is that the nerd is a real person that makes these videos and that he has the fans he has in real life. It's kind of odd. But every fan in the world wants them to play ET. The Atari 2600 game considered the worst of all time. But in flashback we see baby James Rolfe playing Atari and it's ET. And let me tell you, they I guess they were scared to use the ET rights or whatever, so it's EETEE. It's not really ET, but it is. It's
Yeah, and like even on the box, it's like instead of like, ET, it's just like a generic green alien.
exactly, yeah. And he hates this game. He has a passion for it, and he won't even review it. Because
That kid, by the way, even though he's like barely in the movie, again, I don't like ragging on kid actors, but
this is like a
I'm like,
baby, like a toddler.
I'm like, I understand this is not a big moment, but can they get somebody to like act a little more surprised than this kid did?
Yeah, he's like smiling playing the game. He doesn't look like he
Yeah,
doesn't like it.
he was like, ah,
I know. But I guess because sometimes you watch movies. Do you think this sometimes where you watch a movie with a toddler or a baby and they cry and you're like, I wonder how they made them do that. Like, how did they make this kid cry? And I wonder if they didn't use that tactic in this, like feed him some hot sauce or something.
they should have.
Yeah, he would have gotten a better reaction.
But
Go ahead. 'Go 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 a
everyone in this movie is a terrible actor.
Horrible actor. It's
Like,
crazy. Yeah.
especially James Rolfe. Like, it's like I don't
Miserable.
like as bad as everyone else is like how horribly unfunny. It's like the way he says these lines, it's like I can tell, like, I feel like he's so miserable being like the main actor in this movie. Like, he
Oh
does
yeah.
not want to be the main actor.
Man, I know, I understand that the angry video game nerd is how this movie made this much money, to like get made. But he needed to make something where he wasn't the star. He really, like, his first movie, he didn't need to make that leap. Especially just his first something bigger movie, because I feel like that kills it too. Because he's not an actor. He's fine for an internet YouTube video, not for 2 hours of a movie.
Right. And the whole problem is like I think even James as a person, like he's never been interested in acting by
Yes,
any
yeah.
means because basically like he said like the only reason why he became an actor is because he couldn't find anybody else to act in his movies. So he
Hmm.
had to be like the actor. So and then that's the whole reason why he made the AVGN. Like, he would like the AVGN was only supposed to be like a one-off video. Like he was supposed to do like
It was like a
Simon's
short
Quest.
film, right?
Right. He was supposed to just do Simon's Quest and then just be like, and then do Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and that was it. Like that was like he's like,
Hmm.
oh, like I did the worst game, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and but that became so popular, it was like he had to do it. Like he had to like keep
Yeah.
going and he had to be like the forefront. And because
I,
of that, he has to be the star of this movie, and which makes it not fun.
Yeah, but even besides him, because I feel like there's excuses for him not being a good actor. He's not trained. Cooper, Jeremy Suarez, I understand why he doesn't act anymore. Just bad. And then I guess a character that we'll talk about a little bit more. What is her name? It's
Which one?
Sarah Glendening, the main girl.
Okay.
Mandy. The one that tags along with them. She's actually an actress. Like, she's in like soap opera shows, I guess. I mean, that's not saying too much. Hated her. She's so bad. She's probably the best one of the bunch and still isn't good. And I think that's because she actually looks like she's having fun. And I swear, no matter how exaggerated everyone else is acting, I don't think anyone's having fun in this movie. Nobody.
No, no. And I mean, like later in the movie, like there's another like a blonde soldier
Oh
woman who's basically just
God.
there as like a fan ser like a sex appeal type character where it was just like she's like, like Mandy says something like, "Don't get your panties in a bunch," and she's just like, "I'm not wearing any panties," and it's just
And then Cooper goes,
so
hot.
yeah, it's like so dumb. And then like even later in the movie, it's like, well, I wasn't expecting to have a sexy cat fight, but I guess that's what we're gonna do. And
Yeah, and like, to me, that just feels like demeaning in a way, right? Like, just the writing on that.
it just feels like really dated, like even
Yeah.
then.
Yeah,
Like,
even for 2014.
cause even like back then, like, it feels date like that would be something you'd see like in a movie that came out like in the late 90s or early 2000s. It's like, oh,
Hmm.
we're two sexy women. We got to have a sexy cat fight. And now it's like 14 years after that, it's like sexy women, sexy cat. It's like not really not funny at all. And
No.
and even
McButters,
just the
by the way, is her name.
and just the plot alone of this movie is just
Oh, it gets so
I
bad.
like
Oh,
I can't believe like the depths that they sink.
yeah, so I guess just to kind of run through that really quickly. So there, Cockburn Industries is trying to make ET2 because it's the going to
Cock.
be, yeah, Cockburn, and their logo looks like a penis. But they want to make ET2, and they're going to sell a really awful game to everybody. And Angry Video Game Nerd, it seems to be that, oh, he says he hates the game and everybody still buys it. So they're going to use him to sell the game. And the girl Mandy kind of like plays a trick on them to go find the ET cartridges, because he makes a deal with Cooper that if they find the buried ET cartridges, because that's an actual real life thing, that that ET was so bad that they took the extra copies Atari did and they buried it in New Mexico. So they go on a trip to dig up these cartridges, and if they find any, he's going to review ET too. So it kind of becomes a road trip movie with the three of them. But at some point while digging this up, there's just this one off section, horrible. This time I was seriously like, holy crap, this comes out of nowhere, and it's like so different from the rest of the movie. The tone just doesn't work. Is when Cooper describes, he goes like, "Oh, I believe in the flat Earth." And then it does all these animations of like, yeah, you just kind of, it's like a conveyor belt across the earth, just describing all these conspiracy
That was so
theories.
dumb. I hated that
Yeah,
moment.
horrible. Like that, I was watching, I was like, man, this is just like someone who doesn't know how to make a movie. And then it ends with like, oh, and there's what, an evil mechanical like person that created God and the devil, and they live under Mount Fuji, and if they and if they come out, they're gonna make the whole universe cease to exist.
Oh, don't forget
Oh,
bologna sandwich.
oh, and all that'll exist is a bologna sandwich. And then Mandy's like, well, is it a big one or a small one? And he's like, it has no size, no definable size. Actually, you know what, that does seem like an angry video game nerd joke
I just
nowadays.
I get, yeah, maybe nowadays, but I remember I'm just like, what are they talking about? Like, what
It
is
just
this?
it goes on a tangent, but it actually becomes important at the end of the movie out of nowhere. I'm gonna skip some stuff. We'll go back, but there's a military guy who rides around in a tank who is scared because I guess there's an alien actually at Area 51 nearby, so they're scared that they're looking for that alien. And the cartridge. Oh my God, there's so much, and the cartridges have maps of Area 51 in them. That's what the programmer did. But anyway, after all of this debacle of them fighting, out of nowhere, the guy in the tank, the general, goes, "I'm blowing up Mount Fuji because I hate Atari," because that's where they got their logo from. And then the mechanical Christ comes out. It's like it's so out of nowhere stupid.
Well, it's like I said, just like how ridiculous this movie gets, and not in a good way, where it's like they they go there just because they think there's a landfill there. It's like, oh, but no, there's an actual alien. But oh no, the military once again. But oh wait, no, there's an actual god underneath Mount Fuji. And I'm like, ah, and I'm just like, when are they gonna stop? Like, it's like I don't like them going to the landfill with military guys chasing them. That's enough. We got it. Like,
Yeah, that
uh,
that would be fine. That would be okay. We don't need any more. This is already not funny enough, right?
y- yeah,
Yeah.
and it's like then it's like, oh no, we need an actual alien there. I'm like,
With a
why?
puppet, yeah. Oh
Why
my
do we
God.
need an alien?
I have to bring this up because I think this is insane. So there's a part where James Rolfe actually goes into Area 51, breaks in, and goes into like a secret confidential area with people that are presumed dead. So Elvis is there and Tupac is there, and he's rapping and says the N word. And I think it's so weird that an AVGN movie has the N word in it. Like, what are you doing? It's so odd. It doesn't even seem like a joke he would do.
I mean,
Uh,
at least he didn't say the N word like Nostalgia Critic did that one time.
yeah, I guess you're right. Yeah. Wait, oh, that's right. He made that joke.
Yeah.
Yeah, at least it was Tupac saying it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, that
Can't believe they
whole
got Tupac.
yeah, Tupac, Elvis, and then I think someone else was there. Michael Jackson. That's right. But yeah, so that's like the whole military thing with the general that had like his body is half tank and he slowly loses arms and limbs throughout the whole movie. Didn't no, did not like that at all.
Well, not only that, so I understand this movie is on a really tight budget, but like it's like they went out of their way to make this movie look shitty too.
Hmm. Oh yeah.
Like,
I think he wanted it to, right? Like he wanted like to look use cheap effects, right?
well, I mean, he really wanted to use practical effects,
Hmm.
which fine, but there's a reason why a lot of studios don't use practical effects because it's just not very cost effective as CGI. Not saying that they should do that or anything,
Yeah, yeah.
but it's just saying like practical effects cost a lot of money. So
Mhm.
when he's doing this, it's like, it's like, oh, like, you just there's one scene where like a truck falls off of a cliff and it's very clearly like a toy car like falling down
Yeah.
like this dirt mound and then just like set it on fire.
Mhm.
And I don't know, like it looked really bad. And like the parts they did use CGI to were also like really bad.
Yes, I agree. It's so bad, in fact, that there's a conspiracy theory that he actually didn't use all that money to make this movie, that he actually spent significantly less. I honestly, knowing him, he probably mismanaged all that money, and he did spend it all on permits and paying actors.
I don't think, I mean, there is like a whole like, oh, he bought a house with it or whatever. And
Yeah.
I don't necessarily believe that, to be quite honest,
No.
but because I mean, I could easily see like they had like $300,000 and then it's just like all of a sudden like bam, it's gone type of thing, like because
Hmm.
it's just like you said, they don't realize because I believe, it's like they realize like they can only shoot in certain hours of the day and they all had to pay like actors. But the thing is like I remember like read him like complaining about this movie and like one aspect is like they had no money
Hmm.
and it was like basically like he had to get volunteers to like make his movie and he was like so frustrated that these volunteers were not like at his disposal like
Hmm.
at it's like we can't get any reliable people and I'm like well yeah because you got to pay them.
Yeah, yeah. People want a paycheck. They aren't going to do it just because you're like internet famous.
And he was
Yeah,
like so frustrated being like oh like in any normal movie they would have like a team but not my movie.
because they would pay them. That's
Yeah.
why. Um, yeah, man. But yeah, so like you said, it just it looks bad as well. Especially when it gets in the end. So the giant monster comes out and they fight in Las Vegas, and there's all these screenshots of Vegas, and oh man, these are really bad. With there's like insert shots of people gambling, and like there's the roulette wheel where she loses, the monster shakes the building, and she gets double zeros. It's
Yeah.
really bad. Oh,
Just like really lame jokes that you've seen in other movies.
exactly. There's also God, there's a whole bit where they go to like the developer of the game's house. It's the one time I laughed because the guy who runs it's downstairs, and they're both upstairs stomping, and it sounds like they're having sex. Honestly, not that funny. We've seen that before, but they're using the running pad, and she says, "Oh, I've never done this on the pad before." I was like, "Oh, that's kind of funny." I chuckled a little. But that is that, and like one other. The other time is at the beginning whenever his boss at the game store is like, "Oh, I'm gonna pull out the gun," and he pulls out a gun on the nerd because he won't sell the new Call of Duty game. That was kind of funny, but I think that's that actor. I think that's like an actual stand-up comedian that they got.
I've seen that guy. Like he was been on Eric Andre, like at playing like crazy characters, I think.
Oh,
But
that's right. That's right. Yeah. So he's actually just a funny guy.
but the thing I don't like about this movie is just how like so long some scenes are, just like
Hmm.
overly long. Like two things I remember like right away being like really long is one was the opening credits of this movie where it
Hmm.
was just like people talking about how much they loved the Angry Video Game Nerd for like 10 minutes.
It
And,
feels a little self-indulgent,
uh,
right?
well, I mean, I know what it is that, it's all those people that were like on Indiegogo or
Hmm.
whatever. And it's like, oh, you could be in the nerd movie. And it's like, or what, like a little snippet
Hmm.
or whatever. And they're like, oh, see, you're in the movie now. And they had to like fulfill all those orders. So it's like, we have to make this scene really long. But my point is like, it goes on for like 10 minutes. And I'm like,
Yes.
I get it. People love him. I get it.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, because this movie really tries to sell who the nerd is. Like it explains a lot. It even shows you a review at one point of Top Gun and stuff like that. And I hate to say it, but this is a movie that nobody's gonna see if they don't know who this is. I really don't think any. I don't. A little background, sure, but there's so much background here that I don't think makes sense for the normal viewer of this movie.
I just can't imagine anyone that's never heard of him being like, "Oh yeah, let me watch this movie" or whatever.
Yeah,
Uh, but and then the other scenes I remember was like also at the beginning was like when he had that really long dream sequence of like
God, it
of
kept
him
playing again.
where it was like he kept dreaming and dream and it's like he was like afraid of like the alien and then he was afraid and there was like this big like zombie chase scene and it's like again I'm like if you cut out like these two scenes it's like you would have like an hour and a half movie like just
Yeah,
those two.
because those are point. I guess the point of those scenes is for him to be like, you know what, I need to figure out this ET thing. I'm being haunted by it. But like, it could be so much shorter. The whole movie could be. There's a lot cut out. Like later on, there's the scene where Mandy is like stuck in the fake Eiffel Tower, that whole fight sequence, and then Cooper gets stuck to a magnet on the suit, and she's like, or no, she's stuck to the magnet. He's stuck in like a vacuum tube, and like, to me, the like it's already bad. I keep bringing it up because I do think the monster fight stuff, the big monster destruction, is just bring this movie to another level of just like boring, not fun. Because there's no reason it needs to be in this movie, and it's long. This is 30 minutes of this movie, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it's way too long. This movie as a whole is just way too long.
Hmm.
Everything just they can't let a scene just be brief. It's always like every scene has to go on for like a really long time. And I so like the whole like I remember like the whole like lead up to this movie was like, oh, there's like people were asking like, is there going to be a review in this movie?
Yeah.
And like and he's like, yes, there will be a review. I will be reviewing E.T. And he doesn't do that until the end credits of the movie.
Yep, it's the
And
end credits.
and let me tell you, by the time we got to the end credits, I could not have cared less. Like I was just like, I don't even want to see this anymore. Like I don't care what he's saying.
Yeah, are we supposed to like be excited for that? Because I'm gonna be honest with you, end credits rolled and I turned off the movie. I did. I didn't watch the review. I was like, I mean, I for one, I've seen it before, but two, you can look it up online. He has it posted as its own review. But two, it's just I don't want to see it. He's not even putting his whole heart into that review anyway.
No, I mean it's not like an episode of AVGN or whatever. It's supposed to be like, oh, the movie was the episode of AVGN, but like and he does dumb skits in that, and I'll be honest, some of them were even back then were kind of hit or miss,
Yeah, yeah.
but it was always like they were like interworked into the game review, so it was always like the game was like still being woven into it instead of this like, oh, we got to do this like really long skit or whatever. And this one, it's like, oh no, you're gonna have to sit there and watch 2 hours of a movie before you even like what you're actually here to see.
Mhm. No, yeah, exactly. And I don't think a lot of people took to this movie. It doesn't seem, I don't, I think most people don't like this movie unless you're like a really, really hardcore fan. It did have a premiere at Grauman's Chinese Theater. I know it's a big deal to James and everything, but this movie does not have a good reputation for good reason. I think overall, like you said, overly long, just a hard sit, not funny, not even like bad funny, like make fun of funny, just bad.
No, no, yeah, it's very much a skippable movie. And I think and this is my own conspiracy theory, like I think some other people have said, but like I I honestly think this movie like made him hate making movies like
Hmm.
on this scale. Like
Yes, yeah.
it's because I know he's like said like before, he's like, yeah, I don't know what I'm gonna do for, if I make another movie like that or whatever. But it just sounds like it was like because I really believe like, he kind of put in like whatever all he had, he did put it into this movie.
Mhm.
Not necessarily that, that it's a good thing, but, I do think, but the end result is that I think he kind of soured on the
Yeah.
AVGN character, and
Mhm.
but he's pretty much at this point now in his career where it's like he can't do anything else, because if he does, nobody's going to watch it. It's the same thing with the nostalgia critic. Like, tried stop doing the nostalgia critic, but nobody was watching his other videos, so it's like I gotta have to go back and do it.
Yeah, I lose my job this way. Like, what am I gonna do? Work a grocery store kind of deal? Yeah, because I mean that's what it would have to be. That's the problem with online careers is it can be gone in an instant, or it can be a slow, painful death. AVGN does still get decent views. I'm sure he gets paid decently still to this day. But it's a career. It's not really a passion anymore.
Yeah.
And you can tell that he hasn't tried to make another movie. I don't think he really cares to make another movie, and he's just gonna play AVGN till it's just gonna be just like there's a very early episode where there's an old version of him playing the Wii, and I'm almost 100% saying that that will happen. That's just the way it's gonna be on whatever YouTube becomes.
Probably.
Yeah.
But
Um,
no, I do not give this recommend.
no, I don't recommend it either. But But if you go over to Kickstarter, you can get the drive-in double feature movie recommended, or sorry, you can donate to it. We have a goal of about $75,000. We want to go out to Canada, film out there, and we have a really great film for you guys. You got to film every Hollywood film in Vancouver, right?
Yeah, I mean, we want to make sure that we're actually filming in like real look. Like, I want to like go like where all the X-Files episodes were filmed and like be like, "There's me."
Yeah, and it's all leading up to our big review that everybody's wanted. Um,
Yeah, yeah. That X-Files, I want to believe.
One of these days we'll do it if we get a movie funded. But no, no, for real, I do think that ends this review. Sorry I made you watch it, Ryan, but you had to. It's
I had
fine.
to.
Finally, you get why everyone loves Cooper.
I can see why he's so popular.
But Ryan, what are we covering on Thursday?
Well, Nathan, we're going to go back to school and we're going to be talking about the movie Cooley High, and that one is free on Tubi right now.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to watch that one. And if you want to email us, you can email us at driveandoublefeaturepodcast@gmail.com and check out our Patreon. But until next time.
Until next time.